Hi, everybody. We hope you're doing well. I wonder if you've ever gotten to the a point in your life where you work really hard at something, you were on a certain path, let's say, and when you had finally reached the end, when you finally had accomplished that thing, you realized it wasn't enough. Or maybe you realized you were on the wrong path all along and you didn't even know it. I remember the first time this happened to me was in junior high. In 8th grade, I was in an algebra class, and back then, I mean, grades really mattered to me. They don't so much anymore, but back then, grades were so important to me. I wasn't necessarily a 4.0 student, but I did pretty well in school. And when this algebra class came up, I was so excited because it was my first high school class, even though I was in 8th grade and I wanted to do so well. And my third quarter, I remember I had worked really hard. My fourth quarter, I had worked really hard. But my third quarter, I had gotten a B. I forgot if it was a B or a B plus. So I was determined to use that fourth quarter to just work as hard as I could so that the end of the year, that final semester grade would be at least an A minus. And I did. I worked hard. I studied hard. I remember so many of my grades were A's that quarter. We had a lot of tests. We had a lot of quizzes. And if you looked in the grade book, my grades that quarter were like A minus, A minus, A minus, B plus, A minus, B. And it just went like that. There were so many A's, and every now and then there was a B or B plus. And at the end of the quarter, I had so much confidence that I pulled that grade up. I was so excited to see my grade because I knew how hard I had worked. I knew the grades that I had gotten. And at the end of that class, I remember the teacher would bring us up towards the end of the semester and show us our grade. So we actually went home from school knowing this is the grade I'm going to get in that class for that semester. And she showed me the semester grade. That's all I cared about. And I looked, and it was a B plus. And I thought to myself, that can't be right. What about all of those A's? What about all those A minuses? And she said, yeah, you did good this quarter, but look at your third quarter. And I said, I know, but look at all of those A's. How could I get a B plus? And obviously it's math class, right? So she just said, well, mathematically speaking, those and those put together is that, right? And I had missed an A minus by like less than 1%. You know, it was one of those times where you're just like, I can't believe it. I worked so hard and I'm not going to get that thing that I wanted so badly. But the thing I'd forgotten about was my third quarter and the impact that my third quarter had on everything else as well. That a lot of times the impact we have on certain things impacts us more than we realize. And what's really interesting about this section of the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus is comparing a lot of things together. He's comparing things that seem right, but actually aren't right. He's comparing people who look right, but they actually aren't right. And he's getting to a point now where he's getting very serious about what it means to follow him. And that there's actually people who feel that they're fine with God, who one day will stand before God's throne and will not spend eternity with him. And that's pretty serious, I think. Just imagine if you thought you were good with God, and then one day you're before his throne, and you're like, God, it's me. And he looks down and he's like, I don't know you. You're like, it's me, Steve. Have you ever been in those awkward moments like, hi? But then you didn't realize the person waving at you was actually waving at the person behind you, that you actually were invisible to that person or not somebody intended to have some affirmation in that moment. What if God is like, oh, but that person behind you, that's Sarah, right? That's Rachel, right? Oh, that's Todd, and he's my son, she's my daughter, but you, I'm so sorry, I don't know you. Why would I know you? Because of all those things I did, but they weren't the right things. And how would that be in that moment where we've left this earth, where we're on to the next, and actually all of the things that we did this life actually weren't enough. They weren't the right things. So that when we're before God, we actually have missed the right path. Let me read for you about this, where Jesus really tries to differentiate between true disciples and those who aren't. He says this in verse 21, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who do what my Father in heaven wants will enter. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we drive out demons in your name? Didn't we do miracles in your name?' Then I will tell them clearly, 'I never knew you. Get away from me.'" That there's something in this passage that maybe is really hard to understand, but one thing is clear, is we would think we're on the right path, but in the end, we wouldn't be. So how do you know that you're in the right path? You're in the right path when you're not focusing on works, when you're not focusing on doing the right thing as your means to get into heaven. You're on the right path when you really know God, when you really have a relationship with God, when you have really said, "My life is yours, God. Teach me how to live this life." You could do miracles, and doesn't guarantee that you're going to spend eternity with heaven. Maybe you've never done a miracle. That's fine. Maybe you've never driven out demons. That's fine. Maybe you've never prophesied in the name of God. That's fine. But what is most important is where you start, and you start with the relationship. And this is the point, I think, where Jesus is saying, you need to look in your heart, and you could never earn your way to heaven. You could never do miraculous things and have that be enough. What you need to do is allow Jesus to be Lord over everything, in control of everything in your life. And if he's not, even doing great things, even reading the Bible, even praying, even going to church, even giving to charities, even helping people out, even doing a miracle, you could get to the end of the path at one point and say, "Here it is, I get to be in heaven." And God actually say, "I didn't know you.